This is the Soccer Media Podcast. I'm John Shrader. It's our weekly look at the soccer media business and the business of soccer. This time around, one of the longtime chroniclers of American soccer, Stephen Goff. He's with Yahoo Sports now after a long career with the Washington Post. He's spending most of his time here in 2026 covering the U.S. men's team as it prepares for the World Cup, which starts soon. Their first game is June 12th. In LA against Paraguay. We hope you can take a minute to like us, subscribe, send us a note, send us some ideas. We would really appreciate it. All right, here's our conversation with Stephen Goff. He has seen more American soccer in the last 40 years, certainly the last 30-ish, than almost anybody in this country. Stephen Goff, now with Yahoo Sports, but nearly 40 years with the Washington Post. And he's here to talk about some of the important matters going on in soccer. Stephen, thanks for your time, as always.
John, great to join you again, as usual.
Yeah, and let's not bury this lead. You will be in a couple of weeks honored with the Colin Award from the Soccer Hall of Fame for your outstanding contributions to the game of soccer in America. So congratulations on that.
Thanks a lot. It's a nice honor, a nice little surprise before the World Cup, and ceremony in Dallas, and obviously some much bigger names than me will be honored, such as Heather O'Reilly and Tobin Heath and Chris Wondolowski and a few others. So Bob Lee is also going to get the media award that he received last year but couldn't attend the event. And he's one of the legends of soccer media, starring for ESPN for so many years in their World Cup coverage. So it's it's very humbling to be in a group like that.
Yeah, I don't want to leave anybody out, but I'm not going to read the whole list of 20 plus people, but it includes Bob Lee, Amy Rosenfeld, Grant Wall, the late great Grant Wall, Andres Cantor, JP Dellacamera, Paul Kennedy. It's a pretty good company you're keeping there.
Yeah, for sure. And George Vesey was one of my heroes and mentors when I was a younger writer, and to be in the same category as George is pretty incredible, and really puts in perspective all I've been through and all the sport has been through over the years.
All right, I'm now going to make sure that I didn't lose all of my friends and say the names include Tony Quinn, Jim Trecker, Graham Jones, Paul Gardner, Alex Giannis, Ike Kuhns, George Tiedemann, Seamus Mallon, and Jerry Trecker. I think I got all of them. So yeah, there you go. Well, that's cool. That's cool. Yep. So have a safe and fun trip. Being honored in Dallas. That's cool.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
All right. So the World Cup starts here soon, and you spend a lot of time.
I'm hearing.
I don't know. I'm not keeping track of it like some of them. You'll hear something on Fox Soccer, and they'll say 57 days before it starts. I don't know exactly what it is, but it's now less than 2 months. We know that. So, what kinds of things are you working on now, leading up to the World Cup? What's the biggest story in the business right now?
I think there's a lot of story angles. I think overshadowing everything is, how this is going to play out for fans, whether it's ticket prices, access to stadiums, parking, shuttles, trains. The weather's going to be inevitably an issue in the middle of the summer. Except the indoor stadiums, of course. There's a lot of issues here. Fans trying to get into the country, fans that aren't allowed in, a lot of political overtones here. And then, there's a tournament going on too, the biggest one ever with the most countries hosting it as well. So there's a lot going on. My main focus is on the U.S. team and their preparations. It's a lot of heavy lifting leading up to this tournament, and then once it gets started.
Yeah, and just I'm not as close to it as you are, and reporting on ticketing and probably hotel prices and transportation, and then some people have to pay a $10,000 fee to get a visa to come into the country. The money that they'll get back when they leave. I'm sure that's the idea is to make sure they leave when it's done. But this stuff has to have been considered all through the last couple of years, wasn't it? Weren't they?
Um, it certainly was, but the policies of this White House and this government has,
Mhm.
certainly moved the goalposts to some extent. Ticket prices were promised to be, reasonable, certain prices. That didn't hold up. Transportation, there was discussion about free transportation for ticket holders to the stadiums. Um, that ain't happening.
Yeah. Far
It's
from it.
look, man. I mean, world. There's nothing bigger or better than a World Cup, but right now, and I hope I'm wrong, but this could be a really bad World Cup. I
Yeah,
just,
I do
I
too.
just, there's just too much. It's too big. It's too complicated. The rules have changed. The amount of money people are going to need to spend to attend these games. I can't wait for the first, back up at the line for shuttle buses after a game in a stadium parking lot, and one of those awful summer thunderstorms that we know so well in this country hits, and people are just, so just trying to get back to their cars, and they're spending a lot of money just to get to their cars
Yeah.
after spending all the money getting into the stadium with their ticket
Well,
prices. So, look, I hope it goes well, but I'm not optimistic.
yeah. Well, Kevin Baxter reported the other day that parking for SoFi Stadium for a U.S. game could be $250, and FIFA just upped the prices of the categories 1, 2, and 3 for games like the final to almost $11,000. Anyway, it's probably going to get more intense as time goes on. Um, 16 venues, 48 teams, 104 games. As we've talked about this is the biggest, grandest, maybe, maybe the biggest, grandest spectacle in the history of sport. How well is the U.S. prepared, do you think, Stephen, at this point? It's been a couple of weeks now. They lose to Belgium and Portugal in Atlanta. And they have a couple friendlies right before they start in June on the 12th against Paraguay. How would you sort of sort out how the U.S. squad looks at this point? And we're recording this on Friday, April 17th.
There was more optimism at the end of the fall schedule when they went 5 games without a loss. Played well and played against teams headed to the World Cup. Everyone hoped that they would continue that stretch in the March windows, obviously against better teams, Belgium
Mm-hmm.
and Portugal. But that didn't happen. And I mean, a couple issues here. One, I don't think anyone is expecting the U.S. to win these games. These are European powers that are getting close to a World Cup and are very serious about their preparations. But the U.S. didn't play well. Pochettino moved a lot of things around during the game, between the matches. Sure, a few players were missing, but then again, Portugal was missing Ronaldo. So all of that. And I think it kind of reinforced the point that, or raised the question again, is the U.S. ready to take that next step on the world stage? We know they can compete. We know they can beat teams that are on their level or below them, but can they beat a big team? And that's something they're going to have to do if they're going to make a deep run in this World Cup. I mean, getting the round of 16 isn't enough anymore. And to get beyond the round of 16, you're probably going to have to beat someone like Portugal, like Belgium. And the March window, there were no signs that they're capable of doing that. when the real stuff comes along, maybe we'll see something better. But at the moment, it just seems like a round of 16 and out team at the moment.
Yeah. Did you feel like during those games that Pochettino was still experimenting? And is it customary to still be experimenting a couple of months before the tournament starts?
Yeah, I mean, I think his hand was forced a little bit with the injuries.
Hmm.
Tyler Adams not being there, Serginho Dest, those two most prominently. So I think that was part of it. But yeah, I mean, we saw Tim Weah at right back, a position he does play in Europe, but he was really exposed in the Belgium game. And then the second game we saw Pulisic kind of playing striker when we thought we would see Ajman or Ricardo Pepe playing in that traditional striker position. So yeah, some weird stuff. I thought there would be more consistency in this March window. We didn't see it, and the results reflected that. And again, we're questioning: is this team good enough to make a run? And I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens when the real stuff begins. But they're going into a group stage where there's no superpowers in their group.
Hmm.
That's the good news. The bad news is it's a pretty balanced group. The U.S. could finish first. They could finish last. It's just Turkey, I think, goes in as the favorite in the group. Australia is a solid team. Paraguay is going to be difficult. So we'll see how this plays out. But a lot of uncertainty heading into this World Cup for the U.S. team.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting that Turkey would be considered the favorite. They're the last ones who qualified
Yep.
for
Yep.
the group and into the group through the European qualifying. So you're not the first person and won't be the last person to say to me that the round of 16 may not be good enough. That the round of 8 is what the U.S. should look for, and that's how you feel about it, right? I'm interpreting
Yeah.
this correctly.
Yeah. The way I look at it is, look, if they don't make it out of the group, it's a disaster.
Hmm. Oh yeah.
If they don't get past the round of 32, it's very disappointing. If they don't get past the round of 16, it's kind of like, shrug. Nothing really changed. So I think that's the threshold, is to get to the quarterfinal. I don't think people are going to be deeply upset if they don't get past the round of 16. I just think it'll be a little disappointing. So, on home soil, given where the player pool has gone in recent years in terms of big clubs and big leagues, you're starting to expect a little bit more. And a World Cup at home is when you should make that breakthrough.
Have you a feeling yet, either in your reporting or your 40 years of covering soccer, for what role McKennie is going to play, or maybe he plays a different role depending on who they're matched up against?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that last point is important too.
Hmm.
Is much depends on who else is in the U.S. lineup, who the opponent is, what kind of form McKennie is in. I think he can play almost anywhere on the field. He's proven that at Juventus, and he's played multiple roles for the U.S. team as well. Certainly an option to play deeper in, on the wing as kind of a wing back. But I think Pochettino needs to see him in a attacking role, some sort of partnership with Pulisic, underneath the striker, presumably Balogun. He can play a deeper role. He seems comfortable in almost every position. He can even play forward if you're in that situation. So yeah, I think he's such an important player because of his versatility, because of the season he's having at Juventus, because of his experience.
Yeah.
And he's been in terrific form. He inspires people. And I just, Yeah, where he sets up on the
And
field, we'll see. We'll see what Pochettino puts out there in terms of formation and structure.
yeah, and stay healthy.
Yeah.
Freese is the guy in the nets, and
Yep.
do you think the back line is settled, or there's still some work there?
No, I mean that's the biggest question mark with
Hmm.
this U.S. team is that defense. Chris Richards is solid. He's your number one guy, center back, leader, sometimes a captain. Uh, Tim Ream is showing signs of being past prime, and whether he's ready for a World Cup, Pochettino has to make that decision. So that's another question. Austin Trusty's been pretty good. He's on the rise. Miles Robinson's been hurt lately. Hasn't played well for a Cincinnati team that struggled defensively early in the season. He missed the matches in March, the U.S. matches in March because of injury. Some questions there. Mark McKenzie's been hot and cold. And then, Noah Kai Banks, the German, he's never played for the U.S. team, and he's uncommitted to the U.S., and I think it's too late for him, given his lack of international experience. So I think that's no longer an option. On the corners, they're pretty good. I mean, if healthy, Serginho Dest, terrific at right back. Anthony Jedi Robinson on the left. And then they got Alex Freeman as an option. Max Arston's been a regular for Pochettino for the past year. So, they're better on the flanks than in center, in the middle. But yeah, definitely some questions there.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's always fun to watch it. I know you haven't covered a lot of MLS this year because of the World Cup, but there is a guy you know really well. I think Bruce Arena. I think I can fairly make that statement. Covered him as a coach at Virginia, and then of course with DC United. He's made a San Jose Earthquakes team apparently into a contender in a reasonably short amount of time. Is that the kind of thing you would have expected from Arena in just less than a year and a half?
Yeah, I mean, this is what he does.
Yeah.
He has a track record going back to UVA a long time ago, and obviously with DC United and the national team at the World Cup. So yeah, I'm not surprised. I think there were definitely some growing pains last year as he adjusted,
Hmm.
but players for the most part want to play for him, and his messages are clear. The communication is usually terrific, and they went out and they made some moves this year, which he felt were necessary to take that next step. And so far, it's been good. They advanced in the Open Cup as well, and I think there would be no greater thing for Bruce than to make a run at a championship. He's late in his career. He certainly doesn't want to go out with the stain of not qualifying for the 2018 World Cup when he stepped
Hmm.
in for Klinsmann, as well as the fallout from his New England departure and everything that went on behind the scenes there. So no, I think it's an important moment for him, and it's certainly important for the San Jose Earthquakes who fell off the radar. They're back in a good position, and it looks like so far that they could contend in the West.
Yeah, and they have, as again I said, we're recording this on a Friday afternoon, and this weekend they have a game against LAFC, which will probably give them a reasonably good idea of whether or not they're um, able to play with all the big dogs in
Yep,
MLS at this point. So, and that's good,
yep,
and that's
yep.
good. You mentioned the U.S. Open Cup, Stephen, and this is a competition that's 110 years old, and it's quaint, and they've tried to retool it, tried to play around with it. Major League Soccer, I don't think was all that crazy to still be a part of it, but it just won't go away. And every once in a while, as you witnessed the other night, the little guys knock off the big guys, and it
Yeah,
makes it fun and exciting.
yeah. It was a blast the other night. I mean, I on a whim, I just decided to go out to the game here in Washington, see DC United play One Knoxville, which is a third division side. I was going to write a column regardless of how the result turned out, and just write about that quaintness and how There's a purity to it, how it struggled, but certainly is something different and something that has lasted through the years. And then, and so Knoxville takes a late lead, gives up an equalizer, falls behind again in extra time, ties it again, and then wins it in the shootout. So it was a good scene. It was a fun scene. They might not win, they'll go in as big underdogs to Columbus in the round of 16, but it's a good story. And I think it's a lot of fun. There's a real soul to the Open Cup. There's all kinds of weirdness connected to it as well. I think MLS has not done the tournament any favors by, essentially last year pulling out and then sending a few teams in. And this year there's a limited number of MLS teams participating. So, I mean, I wish MLS would back it more. They just seem selfish and don't seem to care because they don't control it. They don't control the TV. They don't control necessarily where the games are played. I mean, I get it. They got tournaments of their own, whether it's Leagues Cup or other events. But I guess I'm kind of a romantic, but I like the Open Cup. I hope people will really start to follow it more closely. And, it's the classic underdog versus favorite situation. And we've got 3 lower division teams in the last 16.
Yeah.
So the fun will continue in 2 weeks.
And I think if I have this right, it's Knoxville and Louisville and Colorado Springs have all advanced, right? Which means Kansas City, Austin, and DC United have been ousted from the second round. MLS not supporting it and US Open Cup being what it is, it's almost like saying, well, the FA Cup's not important to those teams, or Copa del Rey in Spain. Let's diminish the quality of that. They don't. Right. They won't. They never would. It's just a part of who they are, and it's really important to them, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's part of the fabric of the sport in this country. It's been around a lot longer than MLS or any of the pro leagues. And I think it's important that the pro leagues support this. It's good for the sport overall. It might not be good for them in their selfish interests, but it's good for the sport. And there are always going to be issues. There's always going to be problems. There's always going to be MLS teams that don't want to go play at a lower division team that plays on turf at a municipal field somewhere, but it's all part of it. And as the sport continues to grow, the situation, the environment around the tournament should improve as well.
Yeah. And it's a flip of the coin. It's not like, hey, flip of the coin. You Louisville plays Austin. You flip the coin to see. I don't know exactly how they do it, but that's what it's all random, right?
Yeah,
Who gets to be at home? Yeah.
Yeah, it is too bad that the round of 16, all 3 lower division teams will have to go on the road, and all 3 clearly will be underdogs. It's always fun, whether it's in England or Spain or in the U.S. when a lower division team gets to host a big club. Yeah. I think there's a lot of excitement there and a lot of buzz, and to win a game like that really makes your season, makes your year. I mean, you always want to win your league championship, but to beat a bigger club is going to be remembered by your fans, and it becomes part of your history.
Yeah. I mentioned that, and the facts are that you were at the Washington Post for a long, long time and covered MLS, men's team, World Cups, all of those things. Now at Yahoo Sports, how has your groove changed? What's the role been? What kinds of things do you do over at Yahoo Sports, and how is that different than what you might have done at the Post?
Yeah, I mean, everything at Yahoo is concentrated on the World Cup, and that's by far the most important soccer going on in this country this year. So that's primarily my focus, and the U.S. national team specifically. At the Post, I would cover DC United regularly, at home all the time, and some or most away games as well. So that that local aspect of my work is pretty much gone. Sometimes there are things in Washington that transcend local and appeal nationally. Like the Open Cup a little bit. If Trinity Rodman's doing something extraordinary, I don't really have to worry about DC United because they've been stuck in a rut for a long time, and they're barely relevant locally. They're certainly irrelevant nationally. So we can forget about them for the most part. So yeah, the focus definitely is on the US men and the World Cup. And we'll see how it unfolds over the next few months.
Yeah. Well, get some rest. And starting on June 11th to July 19th,
Yep.
every day, all day, right?
Yeah, it's gonna be nonstop. I mean, World Cups are a grind. This one's a little different, being in North America. You don't have that exotic feeling that you do when you're an American reporter, going to Qatar or New Zealand, as the Women's World Cup was a few years ago. So it'll feel a little bit like a normal year, but certainly not a normal year in terms of the travel and the intensity and the amount of work and everything else. But certainly a big summer ahead for the US and all of North America.
And the attention. I mean, people, the diehard fans care. The expatriates who live here from other places care, and lots of folks who don't know much about soccer are going to pay attention too. So that's a good thing for guys like you.
Yeah, for sure. There's a broader audience, and and certainly part of that is explaining the game to people who might not pay attention on a daily or weekly basis. So that's something you need to be cognizant of when you're writing and reporting. You don't want to dumb it down too much, but at the same time, you got to understand you're trying to appeal to readers who otherwise aren't following soccer.
Yeah. And congratulations again on the Colin Jose Award from the National Soccer Hall of Fame for your lifelong contributions to American soccer, Stephen.
Many thanks, John. It means a lot.
All right. With Yahoo Sports is Stephen Goff. I'm John Shrader. He's been with us on this episode of the Soccer Media Podcast.